Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tembisa. Glad to be here again on a Monday. Right, so thank you for viewing my videos. Thank you for new subscribers. Thank you for the comments that you make. All comments are welcome. Whether it's a different view to mine, in fact, it must be a different view. Otherwise, what's the point? Right. So guys, please subscribe. Yes, please subscribe if you have not yet subscribed, because I do have a feeling that this is going to be a long haul. It's going to be a long road. So I want you to be here for all of it. Don't miss anything, because the stories connect to the previous story. And so, I tried to kind of, in the beginning, give a bit of background, and so that you can nicely connect the stories. So, yes, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell, please share, and do all the things that you are expected to do on YouTube. All right, so this story is actually expanding to a story I told, but yesterday I was giving a tribute to my beautiful uncle, who passed on, and so as I was telling the story, of course, the tribute I had to, of course, confine it to exactly that. But I did kind of mention that, there's a bigger story, inside the story, a story within a story. But the reason why I actually want to tell this story, I want to call it the family conspiracy theory. Okay, because there is a lot of turmoil in our family, where there's just a lot of hate going around, and I've figured part of it is just the fact that people just don't like the truth. And so many things that are happening, they shouldn't happen. But, people, just love to entertain stories that they know are untrue in their head. But, that is like a normal situation, because apparently, people, or your brain does that to protect you. Yeah, well, I hope my brain does not bullshit me. But I think also when you do this so often, of course, then your brain takes it as a norm, and that's how it goes. So where do I start? Okay, in order for me to be able to link this story, I want to latch back to part of the story that I told with the tribute, where I was, saying, my uncle was in hospital here in Cape Town, on his, redo of the, op, the, and by the way, as I'm telling the story, because there's so much kak in this family, people are probably like, why are you telling this story? it is my story to tell, right? It was my uncle, and I don't need permission from nobody to tell the story because the story affected me directly. And so I don't understand why certain people think they have more of a right to anything than the other person. Some people will think that, oh, it was my dad, it's fine. It was your dad, but it was my uncle too, okay? It was my uncle. In fact, he was my uncle first. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So I just want to debunk this rubbish that people feel entitled to certain things and positions and whatnot and whatnot. No. So I'm telling the story because it's my story to tell. And you will understand why I say it's my story actually to tell. So, anyway, my uncle is in hospital. As I was saying, every day, my husband, my children, we go to the hospital to see him. For whatever reason, obviously, he lived in Joburg, but now this doctor who was going to fix him is here in Cape Town. So, of course, for whatever reason, the wife couldn't be here, but, she was communicating with us to, check on my uncle and whatever. And we did do that. And so, as I say, every day we were there. When he got out of surgery, we were there. He would phone me to bring him breakfast because he was tired of the hospital food. I did it all. I would cook him lunch, bring it to him. I would come back and forth, do his washing, iron it, send it back to him. My husband fetched him from the hospital, took him to the airport. So I'm telling this story because I want you to understand the extent of our involvement. And so, later on when I question, what was happening, because for me, it's stemming from that premise that it doesn't make sense. But sorry, but weren't you the one who was, advocating for us to be there for my uncle, to look after him and whatever? I mean, obviously the wife did not need to do that. It is my uncle. So, we did not do that because she was saying we should do it. You know what I mean? Okay, but at some point, yes, we respect the wife because now, when you get married, so the wife, takes precedence. So within reason, of course, I'm not saying, to the extent of insanity. So anyway, when my uncle passed, even now, there were major tensions, high tensions in this family. And people were not speaking to one another. And, most of the blame was placed squarely on the doorstep of the wife by the family. I mean, okay, we know this is what happens in life, We've heard the stories where, they say, abafazi babulala madoda, this is the thing that, people go on about, But of course, it is absolutely ludicrous that a wife can kill a husband. I mean, there's situations that it has happened. I'm not like talking, like a blanket situation that it never happens. But, it's obviously, some story being perpetrated and, whatever. So, So I personally don't believe it was entirely her doing, okay? The wife's doing, my uncle's wife's doing that. All of a sudden, this family has been in shreds. Nobody, is talking to, there's tensions. Of course, there were factions, these group, doing their own thing and against these groups, it's like worse than the flippant ANC. So anyway, you know, I believe, of course, the wife was really, and honestly, in her mind, obviously, I can't talk on her behalf, but I said this is a conspiracy theory, so it is speculation. But you know what? I think I do believe I'm on the money on this story, but hear me out. Just stay with me. You know, she was protecting her husband. Um, so, because, you know, she literally banned the entire family from seeing my uncle whilst, you know, he was in hospital. Because then later on, you know, I was telling the story about the hip hop, but you know, that's a like a voluntary, you know, kind of, not voluntary, obviously one gets ill to get to a point of an op, whatever. But later on, my uncle really got ill. You know, he had multiple strokes. And so this is what I'm talking about, where I say, you know, the wife literally banned the family from seeing him because, you know, we couldn't see him. And I'm gonna, oh, I must mention, banned the entire family except for one person. And that's important. That's important. So let's just park that for now. And I'm gonna go through the possibilities. Okay. So, and I'm gonna have to shut this video at 30 minutes because I don't want it going further. Then I'm gonna make a follow-up one. Okay. So one of the things, actually the major thing that happened, I believe that this is what really caused all the trauma and drama in this family. Okay. But of course, you know, nobody wants to really face it. For whatever reasons, we'll go, you know, to that as we go along. So it started where my grandmother, sweet, 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 sweetest woman ever, ever, ever. I mean, she was my number one. So of course, it would appear that my grandmother, you know, she was ill. She had lung cancer and she passed in 2007. And, you know, obviously, you know, the family had a family meeting. You know, my grandmother called all of them to say, you know, there was three brothers and three sisters, four sisters, whatever. Okay. So she called the entire family to say, okay, you know, everyone knows, you know, her time is up. And so she wanted to obviously talk to them about the home. Obviously, I was not part of the conversation. Now, this I hear from hearsay, okay? Obviously, they wouldn't tell me nonsense because, like, so of course, but the thing that was discussed or agreed upon, you know, verbally, that, you know, the house, the family home will remain the family home. Okay. However, because the youngest daughter is not married, or for whatever reason, because as I think about it now, it can't be because she's not married, because obviously my mother is also not married. So, but she was not the one who was chosen. But nevertheless, you know, the idea was that because she's the probably youngest and the one who's not married, so she will be the one who will be the caretaker of the home. Okay. But the home is everyone's home, right? So, but then she had her own home, you know, wherever she lived. So, of course, then, you know, she moved to the family home. She was taking care, everything's beautiful, everyone's happy, and all of that. Until, things surfaced, and, people got to know that, oh, my grandmother signed a will. Now, my grandmother was illiterate. Okay, so she knew nothing about wills. Okay, so it is speculation that my uncle, the youngest, I will call him the youngest uncle, coerced her to sign this will. Okay, so then the will was saying that the youngest daughter will be the owner of the family home. So that's what the will said. So, of course, when this comes to the surface, people are mad, because obviously this was not what was discussed. So, of course, the story was going around that my uncle, the youngest uncle, did this because he wanted to take ownership of the home, but via this youngest sister, because him and her have a very close relationship. So the youngest sister is a bit of a puppet when it comes to my uncle. She would literally like do anything. So this is the speculation that was the plan. I mean, we don't know, the full story, but speculations are that she got money for it, on the sideline, whatever. So, of course, people are just so unhappy. So when this now came about, so then the youngest sister started to act up and not allowing people to come into the house because this is her house and blah, blah, blah. Now, I was very close to her. I was very close to her. So, these things were happening, and then, okay, now, before I get to that story, so basically, when this all came out, apparently my eldest, or the elder uncle, was fuming, and he was so mad that this young brother, played everyone, because he felt disrespected. He felt like, he's taking him for a joke. So, of course, an SMS was doing the rounds, which came from the elder uncle to say, I'm out of this family. I don't want anything to do with you, blah, 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 de blah, de blah. So he was basically distancing himself from the family because he was obviously upset of this situation. Okay. So, of course, now I got hold of that SMS because, at the time, actually, I was not on speaking terms with that uncle, with the elder uncle. Go back to my Lobola story. That is the reason why we were not speaking, because we had a tiff about that, whatever happened in the Lobola story. Go listen to that video and then you get the full picture. So, but, for me, that was not going to stop me because, like, whatever was happening, for me became bigger than me. And then I immediately, because at that point I was an outcast in this family because basically, the cats had carried me and nobody wanted nothing to do with me because I was so disrespectful, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Who cares? Boo hoo. So, so anyway, I thought, and only because I believed I actually had done fuck all to them. So I couldn't really be bothered with this shit. I mean, obviously, they were doing their thing of trying to be petty and, not invite me when it's family gatherings and whatnot. But who cares? Like, hello. So anyway, when I heard the story that, or I saw the SMS, what did I do? Because I'm not one for Skinner. I don't like entertain, like fruitless Skinner. I'm not saying I don't Skinner. I do, like everybody does. You know what I mean? But my kind of Skinnering is not gonna, you know, the kind that is like malicious, and because like it must get to a point, you know what I mean? Because it's like useless to do this thing at my ripe age. So when I got that story, I phoned my elder uncle. I say, Malume, I need to talk to you. Please, when can we meet? So, he gave me a time. So I went to his house and, oh gosh. Now, of course, now remember, this is awkward. This man has not spoken to me for years, right? He has not spoken to me for years. Now, I go there, there's still like unspoken stuff. Now, I don't like unspoken things. You see, this is the fucking problem about me, is that everything must be on the table for me. Like, I can't operate like that. If, there's things that cannot be spoken, I don't do relationships like that, where I must pussyfoot and, tippy toe and all this bullshit. I don't do that. People who know me, they know me, that, it's all on the table, all on the table. Okay. So I say to my uncle, well, the reason why I'm here is to discuss the SMS that you sent to the family about your younger brother. But before we get there, I feel like we need to clear the air. Because it will be weird for me, to not touch on the reason or the fact that you and I are not on speaking terms. Because, we are not on speaking terms, so we need to acknowledge that. That's just me. That's just like, let's acknowledge, let's do it. Like, because for me, it's useless, man, to be in relationship and then, no, it's too tiring for me. I can't do it. So obviously, my uncle, first of all, he's an elder, and also he's a man. Men, they don't want to dive into emotions and stuff like that. So obviously, he's sort of like trying to not get into it. I said, no, let's get into it. It's important for me to get into it before we can actually move on, okay? Because we never had the opportunity to talk about it, because obviously you were not speaking to me. But if I remember correctly, the reason why we are not speaking today is because of the Lobola story. Now, I don't understand why we are here, because when this story broke out, you contacted me and I explained to you how my mother actually messed up the whole situation, because obviously it was an agreement between my mother and myself, and she had agreed to go with what I proposed. And then later on, she decided, because of greed, basically, it was because there was no other reason. for her to have outed me, because in her mind she was mad. Now, if you hear the stories of my mother that I've already spoken, then you understand that she's a greedy woman. She never has enough. Like, you can give, 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 give. She's not satisfied. So even though I had said to her, this was not, I'm not going to now go into that whole Lobola story. Go and listen to the Lobola story, and then you understand why I proposed what I proposed. So, that was the story. So I said to my uncle, because now I'm having the conversation with him before we get into the real meat of the other conversation. I am here for the SMS he sent to the family to say he wants out of this family, he feels disrespected and all of that. So I said, I don't understand why you were coming down on me, because, like, I told you, this is what happened. So I expected you to say, but, oh, sure. I mean, if that is what you and your mother decided on, then, it is what it is. And it's sad, though, because, like, things shouldn't happen like that. But at the end of the day, your mother did agree to this. But now she turned around and made me to be the villain, because obviously she didn't tell the full story. She obviously only told parts of the story just to suit her narrative, to make me look like I'm that daughter that, the husband pays lobola, and then I go and grab the lobola money. But it's not the truth, though, because my mother knows, and I told her that this is my money, because my husband said he's not going to pay lobola, okay? And that reasons are discussed in that video, right or wrong, because people have their own opinions about it. But, for me, I don't care, even then, even now, when, it's neither here nor there for me, but that is what happened. So I was saying to my uncle, I feel like you should have addressed your sister, my mother, but it was easy for you to come down on me. For what? And I couldn't allow that, because I had to stand up for myself, because I was not in the wrong. And I'm not going to take it just because it's you, it's an elder. No, that is not how it works, But obviously now I'm explaining myself. The mood and the energy was not like that at that point when I was talking to my uncle, because remember, at that moment, I was merely smoothing out the ground, because I wanted to get his understanding and his buy-in to, but because I actually love my uncle, right? He's always been my person, but what happened did happen. So, and he did take the stance that he took, which I believe was wrong. Whether he'll ever admit to it, I don't know. But I mean, if he feels he's not wrong, then it's fine. But I feel he was wrong. You know, so that is my take on it. So then, we kind of, we were like, okay, because my uncle and I were close, man. We never had this kind of a tumultuous relationship. So in that moment, you know, I think some tears were shed, and but just a little, just to kind of be like, okay, we've now spoken about it, we've gotten over it. But no, we didn't get over it, you see, because, like, I don't know, I have to say that I'm a bit of a tricky person, in the sense that I'm not going to get over it, okay, until people own up. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it does not work like that, because if you accept bullshit over and over, and then people just keep on walking all over you. So I don't go through life like that. And I will accept, apologies and whatever, and I will apologize when I'm in the wrong, or I'm the person. I love to be wrong. I love to be wrong. I don't care to be wrong. So, but I don't just move on just like things didn't happen, because it's, for me, bullshit, and you're gonna run yourself into a situation. So let me stop this video and then proceed with the rest of the meat of the story on the next video, right? I don't want to make it too long, but thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, comments, hit the notification bell, and share the video. Thank you very much. Don't miss the next story, because that is the meat of the story. This was just background. Thank you. Have a fabulous day.